The President of the United States is arguably the most significant position of power and influence in the world.
For president, season 2 and 2.
Those who earn the prestigious honor of staying in the White House have traditionally been selected by running complex campaigns involving public appearances,
Good to see you.
speeches,
He must lead toward a world that trades in freedom.
conventions, and maintaining a constant news presence. This strategy has been the foundation of election campaigns for years. Until now. Because now, the leader of the free world is determined by Minecraft,
Almost fit. I got you there.
the attention economy,
The longer people watch something, the more likely they are to keep watching.
and internet brain rot.
I borrowed my mom's car.
It may sound like a joke, but I'm dead serious. To explain how we got to this point, we need to go all the way back to 2009, where we'll find the first fallen domino in this crazy chain of events. Because this was the year that Facebook first introduced an algorithm-based content feed. See, at the time, Facebook was on a meteoric rise with insane amounts of user growth.
Facebook's entire population, more than 350 million active users.
And more users means more content being posted by each and every one of them. When you combine that with a platform that prioritizes likes over everything else, what results is a cesspool of clickbait articles and engagement farming posts being published.
What happens when you click on it? What's its purpose? The person is a fucking moron.
In order to combat this rise in low-quality content, Facebook released something called
EdgeRank.
It's called EdgeRank, I guess.
It's their algorithm for deciding what kind of content they want to serve when you log into Facebook.
It was essentially a first attempt to sort user feeds and prioritize more relevant content, addressing the problem of low-quality posts that were flooding the platform. It may not have seemed very significant at the time, but this marked the beginning of an eventual major shift towards platforms deciding what content gets shown. But as Facebook continued to grow, EdgeRank couldn't keep up with the increasing volume of content.
The amount of stuff that people are sharing, it's growing at this exponential rate.
Zuckerberg was also looking for a way to maximize ad revenue and figured out that the longer a user stays on site, the more ads they view. That shift in prioritization from Facebook, and eventually all other major platforms, was the dawn of the era that we're living in right now. Around the same time, YouTube had also started quickly gaining popularity, largely in part due to viral videos like Charlie Bit My Finger,
That really hurt!
The Evolution of Dance, and Grape Lady Falls. Of course, in the same way as Facebook, YouTube wanted to increase the amount of time users spent on the platform because they stood to generate more revenue as a result. So taking a page from Zuckerberg's book, they began prioritizing watch time as the main metric for identifying the best videos. Something to note, at this time, YouTube was really one of the only video-first platforms. Facebook and Instagram had not yet begun focusing on short-form video content like they do today. So back then, it probably did make the most sense for YouTube to prioritize watch time as the primary metric. And as a response to this shift, we saw a notable rise in viewership for gaming content. One of the biggest reasons the gaming category grew so much was convenience. It was much easier to make a 10 to 15 minute video playing your favorite video game than it was to produce other popular content types. You could just boot up your Bandicam, press record, and start making a video. Remember, these were the early days of YouTube. There weren't nearly the same level of expectations for highly produced and professionally edited content. You could take your game footage, do some light editing work, if any was needed at all, and have it live on your channel within the same day. And since watch time was the main priority, spending 10 plus minutes on one of PewDiePie's classic playthroughs of Amnesia was more than enough to give that video a substantial boost in the algorithm. As gaming content continued to soar in popularity on the platform, the YouTube algorithm continued to shift alongside it. Eventually, it started focusing more on a retention percentage rather than overall watch time. It was no longer just about how long your videos were. Instead, the priority was to see how many viewers watched the whole thing, and this was where the retention graph was born. You see, YouTube has always had a dashboard of analytics for creators. The point has been to give better insight into their video's performance, so they can adjust and improve using tangible feedback. And while it's always been helpful, the addition of the retention graph has proven to be the biggest advantage to date. Before then, creators had to make educated guesses about which parts of their videos were keeping viewers interested. The only data YouTube provided on this was a single line and a percentage number representing what amount of viewers watched a video from beginning to end. So this new set of data became a complete game changer. Here's why. The retention graph gave creators an ability to see their audience's interest in the video broken down by the second. You could see exactly where there was a spike or drop in engagement, then go back and optimize that part for the next video. And since the algorithm favored retention above all other metrics, it wasn't long before YouTubers began focusing on it as well, especially Minecraft creators. In fact, it was actually the Minecraft YouTuber community who discovered fairly quickly that if you were able to achieve an increased amount of retention during the first 30 seconds of a video, it had a very high chance of being picked up by the algorithm and racking up views. As a result, Minecraft videos went from showing realistic one-to-one builds of the Star Trek Enterprise.
This is a one-to-one scale model of the Starship Enterprise.
To role-playing videos.
I think you need some more of that mental education.
Because with things like speed building videos in Minecraft, a high retention metric is much more difficult to attain. Since the videos follow the same general formula, viewers are much more likely to skip past certain parts because they know they're not missing anything integral to the video. But with role-playing videos, things are a lot more controllable. First off, by knowing how important the first 30 seconds of the videos are, a creator can pack in the juiciest, most engaging parts of the story at the front. It's sort of like a hype trailer that showcases what's to come, to keep you interested in watching through the whole thing.
Light him up! Like a Christmas tree!
What you get, boy?
Merry Christmas!
Secondly, Minecraft role-playing videos were still relatively convenient to make. As I'm sure everyone knows already, Minecraft is a sandbox game. You can create anything you can imagine. So building the set for your next role-playing video is much easier, less time intensive, and less expensive than trying to produce a comedic skit in real life. Games like Minecraft that are also very mod friendly allow creators to produce unique content that viewers wouldn't otherwise be able to see in game.
We dropped all the things!
And lastly, role-playing videos have a built-in story structure, the same way that movies and TV shows do. That structure disincentivizes viewers from skipping through parts just to see how it ends, because the story itself is where the intrigue lies. Thus, this type of content was a bit more protected from sporadic viewer behavior that resulted in lower retention numbers. And as the Minecraft community on YouTube continued its rapid expansion, one of its members started to think outside the box. He wanted to take the practices seen in roleplay videos and apply them in a different, more gamified way. His name? Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast.
We recreated every single challenge from Squid Game and Minecraft, and whoever won Squid Games got 45.6 billion won, which is why the winner of our challenge here gets 45.6 grand.
The notorious king of YouTube, Mr. Beast went from just another YouTuber uploading standard Minecraft videos to becoming the face of the platform. Gaming content on YouTube is where he started. His first 15 or so videos were specifically about Minecraft. And now he boasts an astonishing 330 million subscribers on his main channel, with hundreds of millions more followers when combined with his many other alternate channels. But how did he do it? Through a technique commonly known as retention editing. Videos with this editing style are often characterized by an extremely fast cadence of speech and progression.
The first thing I'm gonna need to survive the full 100 days is a base where I can farm and sleep. It's a pretty standard Minecraft necessity.
Paired with obnoxiously colorful graphics and nearly zero rest time. By hyper-focusing on a video's performance metrics and utilizing every granular piece of information they provided, you can essentially create a literal formula for success on YouTube. If there was a slight drop in engagement at the 3-minute mark, make it faster. Under 40% retention for the full video, cut out all the fat and keep only the parts where someone is speaking or an event is occurring. It's a brutally detailed form of content creation that cares for absolutely nothing except keeping your attention. And it worked better than anyone could have imagined. From 2020 to 2025, Mr. Beast saw a growth of over 300 million subscribers utilizing this technique, a feat that has never been achieved by anyone else on the platform before. But with his rapid and very public success, Many other aspiring creators wanted to achieve something similar. So, a continually increasing number of them began using that same retention editing technique popularized by MrBeast, and they found themselves gaining unprecedented viewership as well. It was so much that at some point, it felt like at least half of all the content on YouTube was an attempt to mimic MrBeast's style in what's often referred to as the beastification of YouTube. Naturally, this type of editing spawned different variations of retention-centric content that was being distributed on all other social media platforms as well. And while it's obviously effective on paper, not everyone was a fan of this new content. There was, and continues to be, a lot of discourse about this style being disingenuous, inauthentic, and ruining the art of video making.
Retention. It's a high energy, to the point, in your face editing style taking over the internet, grabbing the attention of millions of viewers. And it kinda sucks.
It became purely about the business. Regardless, its impact has been undeniable. So much so that we're seeing the side effects of an even bigger problem it has created for the internet as a whole: brain rot. So as retention-centric video content continued its rise in popularity, the expectations of viewers changed alongside it. Audiences were becoming much more accustomed to any and all content being cut down to its most concentrated form. By making videos purely for the sake of retention, creators were inadvertently removing any aspects of their content that required viewers to think about and reflect on the work. These videos were effectively spoiling their brains rotten. Audiences began to have significantly less patience and general awareness when consuming content and media overall. You can find the most clear evidence of the effects in comment sections, especially on platforms like TikTok, which makes a lot of sense when you consider that short-form video content had begun its rapid ascent to the most popular media format during this time as well. There are people asking for the name of the song that's clearly labeled on the bottom of the screen, comments asking questions about topics directly addressed in the video, viewers that are incapable of recognizing satire or applying contextual information to the content they consume. The list goes on. And while these may seem like relatively insignificant changes in online behavior, they accumulate into a really concerning new truth, which is there is now a genuine critical thinking skills shortage. Without them, people become dangerously susceptible to misinformation, dirty marketing, and even straight up propaganda. Especially now more than ever, considering how mutually involved social media content creators and political agendas are becoming. That being said, very few, if any, Minecraft creators or quote-unquote retention-centric YouTubers are directly involving themselves in politics. But it's not them that are a cause for concern. It's the fact that their audiences that have become highly impressionable and reliant on direct explanation for anything can now easily overlap with creators who do have dangerous potential. These creators use the same techniques that have been popularized purely for entertainment, but instead use them irresponsibly or even maliciously for a specific purpose. For example, imagine the audience demographics of Minecraft content on YouTube. Now, do the same with Adin Ross's audience. It's pretty safe to assume there's a high amount of overlap between them, especially with the teenager and young adult male demographics. Now take that same overlap and imagine a comparison against the audience of Andrew Tate. While it's statistically bound to be less than before, I'd be very confident in estimating that a high percentage of crossover is still there. Why does it matter? Because highly impressionable members of these communities who, again, are part of a critical thinking and general online awareness shortage, begin consuming content from directly connected sources that have been historically either produced without careful consideration or even maliciously curated. Adin Ross is a 24-year-old streamer who gained popularity through an effective strategy of clip farming. Clip farming is a technique used especially by live streamers to consciously maximize the amount of potentially viral moments during the broadcast. These clips are then usually shared by fans to platforms like TikTok, where they generate more interest for the next stream. He also has many videos playing Minecraft, some with guest celebrities even. Now, most of the time, these viral moments are harmless jokes, but other times the pursuit of virality can result in content topics that are more serious. Of course, this is a natural result of clip farming, It would be naive to assume otherwise. The goal is simply to generate buzz and attention. And as I'm sure anyone who has a history in PR and media can attest, controversy always sells. So, it's true that these clips can seem extremely damning when taken out of context. But generally speaking, we'd expect most viewers to be able to recognize that there's more to the clip, and that they shouldn't draw conclusions from one small section of a whole stream. I mean, everyone can tell when a creator is clip farming by using techniques of forced controversy, shock, or satire, right? Except they don't. They don't understand that. It simply does not register that Aiden may not actually believe what he's saying, and that he's just farming for viral clips. And like us, Aiden knows very well that saying or doing things that create friction have the best chance of gaining attention. But as a result, his audience has a very high probability of taking these clips at face value, not only believing what has been said, but also sometimes being convinced to actually agree with these statements and accept this intentionally controversial behavior as normal or even cool. Like I mentioned before, that's one of the core problems that we're dealing with. So when you combine that with someone presenting more directly malicious intentions, things can get nasty.
In a dramatic turn of events, Andrew and Tristan Tate touched down in the United States just days ago, fresh off their release from house arrest in Romania as they face explosive allegations of sex crimes, human trafficking, assault. Their arrival in Florida has ignited a firestorm of controversy.
Andrew Tate is a 38-year-old creator and scam artist who exploded in popularity around March of 2022. His rise to fame can be directly attributed to his multi-level marketing scheme, Hustlers University, where members were mass sharing his clips in a guerrilla marketing tactic. These clips almost exclusively involve Tate directly expressing hate-filled and absurdist opinions, except these were not your simple controversy and attention-seeking strategies. His malice was intentional.
I will pick you up with one hand by your titty, body slam your ass. And when I'm standing on top of you, and you're like, and I'm grabbing you by your neck, and you've learned, I learned in self-defense, when he grabs me by my neck, what I do is I get my fingers in, yeah, but you know what they didn't teach you in self-defense? Here's a little move. When I grab you by your neck and you start annoying me, trying to resist, and I just, and then I grab you by your neck again. Then what the fuck are you gonna do when your face is collapsed?
And so, in July of 2022, Aiden Ross invited Andrew Tate to his stream, marking the first of many collaborations between the two. If we're giving the benefit of the doubt, Aiden likely did this as another marketing strategy to garner more publicity. Andrew Tate was blowing up on socials, and Aiden Ross probably saw a clear opportunity to benefit from that. Yet, they ended up collaborating so much during this time that their online brands became directly synonymous with one another's. Aiden was even accused of changing his behavior and personality to more closely mimic Andrew Tate's. In other words, a very large, highly impressionable audience with minimal critical thinking skills was algorithmically guided by mutual association to a fairly controversial streamer. This same streamer then collaborated and directly aligned with a self-proclaimed misogynist and eventual indictee of both rape and human trafficking charges. Oh, and on several occasions, they both have directly expressed their support for Donald Trump. Now, especially at this part, I want to continue to stay as objective as possible. So regardless of whether you approve or disapprove of Trump, he is definitively the most controversial president in American history.
Number 1, Donald Trump.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
He has an incredibly large track record of situations that, at the very least, are contentious by nature. But it's because of that track record that Trump also has had one of the most persistent media presences in both traditional news and on social platforms. It's a strategy that's extremely similar to the ones used by Aiden Ross and Andrew Tate. Obviously, it's on a much larger scale, and there are way more complexities involved with politics and presidential campaigns. But at their roots, all of their strategies have a part out of the same playbook.
After years of building up foreign nations, defending foreign borders, and protecting foreign lands, we are finally going to build up our country, defend our borders, and protect our citizens.
The part being this: controversy creates attention. Attention becomes a presence, and that presence is how you can build a following, or even win an election. So, in August of 2024, when Trump collaborated with Adin Ross for a live-streamed interview to a peak of 500,000 concurrent viewers, it would completely alter the course of digital media and the future of politics as a whole. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned how presidential candidates would always run pretty standard traditional campaigns. These would usually involve speeches, interviews, and other events. Most of this activity would be exclusively shared by legacy media, newspapers, news channels, etc. So when social media became more relevant, it added a new layer to the strategy. But still, it didn't seem like that important of a variable, because you still needed to have this sort of buttoned up and formal presentation as a candidate, especially if you had any hopes of being taken seriously. At least that was the case until Donald Trump's campaign. See, he managed to build a very large online audience essentially by himself. He did so by being extremely outspoken on his personal social media accounts, which was a major source of his controversies. Before him, this was easily considered to be career-ending behavior when it came to politics. And normally, most presidential candidates have very curated statement releases and online posts. But instead, Trump circumvented all of the traditional formalities and red tape and restrictions. As a result, he built an audience whose interest in him was not necessarily determined by traditional media coverage and highly curated interactions with the public. If you take all of those concepts into account, but remove the politics from them, what's left over is strikingly similar to how creators like Adin Ross and Andrew Tate built their own online audiences. Like Trump, Ross and Tate were able to circumvent the restrictions that traditional media follows, while still garnering significant attention. And because of their controversial growth strategies, they normalized that kind of contentious behavior to their already impressionable and majority young adult male audiences. So, when Adin Ross overlapped his audience with Trump through his endorsements and interview stream, there was virtually no resistance in gaining their support. But even with that crossover, there's a lot more nuance to winning political support than there is to convincing someone to just watch a stream. So how did Trump really win this new audience's support? By being common. By default, there's a very noticeable separation between the common man and a politician. That gap can be made from a perceived difference in wealth, upbringing, accessibility, and more. It's one of the biggest challenges a politician faces when running for election, because that gap translates to unrelatability, and being unrelatable can very quickly become untrusted. That's why you always see campaign ads of politicians being in quote-unquote common settings, talking to us normal people. They're on the farm doing manual labor, or in a local diner shaking hands with other customers. The point is, it's fabricated relatability. And even though it's pretty easy to spot when someone is trying way too hard to be relatable, it was the most effective way to appeal to the common man. So during their campaigns, pretty much every political candidate would do it to some capacity. But, and you probably guessed it, that changed with Trump.
1946, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker, so God gave us Trump. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, fix this country, work all day, fight the Marxists, eat supper, then go to the Oval Office and stay past midnight at a meeting of the heads of state. So God made Trump.
Whether intentional or strategic, Trump's relatability came as a result of his informal presentation to the public. He didn't have to pretend to be a lower-class, blue-collar worker like others would have done. His audience related to him informally speaking his mind, oftentimes about very taboo topics and with notably controversial stances. That was how he closed the gap and spoke to the common man. So, even when he would consistently exaggerate or make objectively false statements during his campaign, it didn't affect him negatively like it would any other candidate. His audience, the one including a large number of impressionable young adults with minimal critical thinking capabilities, either didn't care or couldn't actually recognize that they were false or hyperboles. And in most cases, the latter group would actively support and agree with the statements because they don't know better and they found Trump relatable. So, when November rolled around, there was an extremely large favor of Trump from the same demographic, and eventually, Donald Trump won the race. So Minecraft, albeit indirectly, helped elect the President of the United States. Now, obviously, this wasn't the only reason for his win. There are a ton of other major variables for his successful political campaigns that include all different types of demographics. But it should not go unrecognized that almost all of these variables include some variation of this one. His audience, through whatever rationale, could not identify misinformation or exaggerations and use critical thinking to understand the true intentions of why something like that was said. Or, even if they could, would not give the controversies any appropriate consideration because of how relatable Trump had become. Ultimately, what this means is that creators now have a significant amount of influence, a lot more than the general public would even give real credit for. Their influence is not always obvious or even as directly controllable, but it is there, and it is having an effect. The media being consumed, especially regarding online content, has a much broader impact than we realize. So, what next? Are creators going to start running for politics? Are senators going to be elected through skyblock battles? Honestly, I couldn't tell you. There are an unfathomable amount of variables at play with this new level of creator influence, the rise of AI, the TikTok ban, and so much more. All I can say is that the systems we have in place and the ones coming in the future are and will continue to have a dramatic effect on what and who runs the world.